Morgan Ross is my guest today, and we're talking about Observe to Obey. Morgan, you have been a student here at the youth group. You've been a part of Glen Park for a long time. What are some things that you have observed from our church and some things that you have observed from Scripture that have turned you into the young woman you are today?
Um, well, I've been here all my life, like you said, most of my life, and I just think seeing everybody being so religious and like being at this church, because there's a lot of people that have been here longer than I have. It's crazy, um, and just being a part of the youth group and being participating is really just the best thing for me right now.
So, you recently invited one of your friends to come to church, Cassie. And talk over the course of time, Cassie went from just attending with you to being baptized, and we'll talk more about that in a little while. But talk about what went through your head when you decided to invite her to come to church, because inviting people to church is a pretty scary thing to do.
Well, I've known Cassie since third grade, and so she would always come to church with me on Wednesday nights when we had little youth group things and stuff. But my first year of CIY 2 years ago, when we were about to be freshmen, she went to CIY with me, which was a big thing because she'd never left home for that long. And she decided to accept Christ, and that week we were at CIY. At first, she wasn't too sure about it, but then she really ended up loving it and opening up to everybody there. And so yeah, eventually she got baptized. It was just a really cool thing to see.
Obviously, God gets the credit for when lives are changed and hearts are changed, but He likes to use us in that responsibility. What did you see your role being when you invited Cassie to come to CIY? I mean, did you imagine that she might give her life to Christ? Did you think that perhaps this would be one of those watershed moments in somebody's life?
I mean, obviously, I was hoping for the best. I was hoping God would change her life in some way, but I don't think she would ever come to church. Her family isn't, they're religious, but they don't go to church on a weekly basis. So I don't think she would ever thought about going on a trip if I wasn't going. Like, it is God's thing. It was happened for a reason, but you know.
What were some of the things at CIY that the two of you, for lack of a better word, agreed with and maybe talked about that week? I know it's a long time ago, but can you remember back and maybe what got the ball started, what got the ball rolling in her decision to make a decision for Christ?
I think everyone that went on that trip had an impact on her, just seeing how they accepted her without even knowing her and just welcomed her with open arms. Really, they all became friends just like that, and it was great.
I know you're a pretty humble person, and you're not somebody who would necessarily seek out glory or anything like that, but it's got to feel good for you to know that a simple invitation turned into not just her becoming a follower of Jesus, but also now her brothers got to go to CIY this year, and the wheel continues to roll, so to speak.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome to see. I'm really proud of Emilio, her brother, for accepting Christ like he did so quickly.
Now that they both have said yes to Jesus, talk about how do you help, what's your role in encouraging Cassie and Emilio and others to stay with it when it gets hard, to not give up, to not quit?
I think just being active in the church, like even if you're not feeling like going that day, just go anyway. You might hear something that you need to hear. God will definitely um, give you something that you need to hear. So just participate and never give up. Just keep going.
When you hear the Great Commission, go make disciples, baptize, and teach, it's found in Matthew 28:18 through 20. When you hear those four things, do you feel excited? Do you feel nervous? Do you feel called? What are the feelings that go through your mind and your heart when you hear Jesus in his own voice say, Morgan, you need to go and make disciples and baptize and teach?
It's definitely a nervous feeling because I feel like just walking up to a random stranger and saying, "Hey, do you know Jesus? Do you know the gospel?" That's definitely a scary thing. But if you can start with your friends and people that are close to you, like I did, and maybe work your way up, I think that would be a good thing.
Morgan, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your willingness to share a little bit of your story. If there is somebody sitting in the church right now, or maybe somebody sitting at their computer listening to this, what's one word of encouragement you would give them to go and make disciples and baptize and teach?
I would say just know that God has your back and He's not going to allow you to do anything that you can't do. So just do whatever you feel He's called you to do.